Hey everybody, it's old Chaplain V, back for another session of 12-Step Spirituality Program. Today we're going to be looking at step number 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Well, I love this step. This to me has to do with spiritual growth. You know, when we have a conscious contact with God, that's really before we have a relationship with God. We got to be aware that how God is involved in our life. That's why ask and you shall receive. Well, we receive a better relationship or a conscious contact with God when we ask to do God's will. Seek first the kingdom of God. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it will be open to you. The problem is, first comes the natural, then comes the spiritual. The natural way is reactive. We have what's going on between our ears. We have the shoulds, what we should do now, and what we think is important. First comes the natural, then comes the spiritual. But the spiritual doesn't come until we reflect, and we're not going to have time to reflect unless we seek to do God's will. Praying only for God's will is so important. How many times have we seen politicians or people in public say, well, we're going to pray for that family that had that tragedy. It almost implies like they have a special contact that God's going to grant them wishes. God's in charge. God, all things work for the good of those that know the Lord, that work with the Lord. My own personal experience was my reactive self when I got sober so many years ago. As I told you, I started going to the library and I'm going to read all about God. I'm going to find out about God. That's what I thought I should be doing. I was reacting naturally. First comes the natural. And finally, I was so frustrated. I just said, God, help me. What is it you want from me? This isn't working. I don't even know if this is, I'm nuts, And it was like God's grace just touched my heart. Ask and you shall receive. Next thing you know, I was volunteering at a shelter that very afternoon. And that night before I went to work, it was like, oh my God, I had the best day I had in a long time. And that was, when I reflected on that, I realized that that's our conscious contact with God. We realize that God's going to guide us, but we got to ask in order to receive. But when we got it all figured out and we're into the theory of God and we're going to study about God, it ain't going to happen. Well, God bless you, everybody. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with a little more then on Step